Hey, right behind me is the Literacy Cafe menu, and CAFE is an acronym that stands for Comprehension, Accuracy, Fluency, and Expand Vocabulary. And on our cafe menu, we have all these reading strategies to choose from, and we're going to be talking a lot about these in our one-on-one meets. The C in CAFE stands for comprehension, which means I understand what I read. The A in CAFE stands for accuracy, which means I can read the words. The F in CAFE stands for fluency, which means I can read accurately with expression and understand what I read. And the E in a CAFE stands for expand vocabulary. That means I know, find, and use interesting words. Today we're just going to focus on one of the comprehension reading strategies, and it's called check for understanding. And some of you guys might recognize this from our one-on-one reading meets that we've been having. So to model that strategy for you, I'm going to read a story. And it's by one of my favorite children's authors. His name's Leo Lionni. And this story is called Alexander and the Wind-Up Mouse. And I'm going to stop after every few pages and ask myself, what did I just read? That's how we check for understanding. Alexander and the Wind-Up Mouse. Help, help, a mouse! There was a scream, then a crash. Cups, saucers, and spoons were flying in all directions. Alexander ran for his hole as fast as his little legs would carry him. All Alexander wanted was a few crumbs, and yet every time they saw him, they would scream for help or chase him with a broom. Okay, what did I just read? Well, there's a mouse named Alexander, and he's hungry, and he comes out of a little hole, and every time he comes out of the little hole, the people chase him away. This time they chased him away with a broom, and they're screaming. One day, when there was no one in the house, Alexander heard a squeak in Annie's room. He sneaked in, and what did he see? Another mouse. But not an ordinary mouse like himself. Instead of legs, it had two little wheels, and on its back there was a key. "Who are you?" asked Alexander. "I am Willie the Wind-Up Mouse, Annie's favorite toy. They wind me to make me run around in circles. They cuddle me, and at night I sleep on a soft white pillow between the doll and a woolly teddy bear. Everyone loves me." "They don't care much for me," said Alexander sadly. But he was happy to have found a friend. "Let's go to the kitchen and look for crumbs," he said. "Oh, I can't," said Willie. "I can only move when they wind me. But I don't mind. Everybody loves me." Okay, what did I just read? Well, on the last page, I read that there is a girl named Annie, and in Annie's room, there is a toy mouse, and everybody loves him. They wind him up, and he goes around in circles, and he meets Alexander, and Alexander's happy to have found a friend, but Willie can't really go with him to look for crumbs or anything because he's not a real mouse. He's just a toy. Alexander, too, came to love Willie. He went to visit him whenever he could. He told him of his adventures with brooms, flying saucers, and mouse traps. Willie talked about the penguin, the woolly bear, and mostly about Annie. The two friends spent many happy hours together. But when he was alone in the dark of his hideout, Alexander thought of Willie with envy. "Ah," he sighed, "why can't I be a wind-up mouse like Willie and be cuddled and loved?" So Alexander and Willie are having a great time, right? I make sure that I understand what's happening in the book before I go any further. They are having this great time, doing all this fun stuff together. And Alexander goes out and does real mouse things and comes back and tells Willie all about it. But then he feels envious. He feels kind of jealous of Willie because he wants to be loved and cuddled. One day, Willie told a strange story. "I I've heard, he whispered mysteriously, that in the garden, at the end of the pebble path, close to the blackberry bush, there lives a magic lizard who can change one animal into another. Do you mean, said Alexander, that he could change me into a wind-up mouse like you? That very afternoon, Alexander went into the garden and ran to the end of the path. Lizard, lizard, he whispered. And suddenly there stood before him, full of the colors of flowers and butterflies, a large lizard. Is it true that you could change me into a wind-up mouse? Asked Alexander in a quivering voice. When the moon is round, said the lizard, bring me a purple pebble. Okay, what did we just read? Well, Alexander found out that there's this magic lizard, and if he brings the lizard a purple pebble, that maybe that lizard could change Alexander into a wind-up mouse. I wonder if he would want to be a wind-up mouse. For days and days, Alexander searched the garden for a purple pebble. In vain. He found yellow pebbles and blue pebbles and green pebbles, but not one tiny purple pebble. At last, tired and hungry, he returned to the house. In a corner of the pantry, he saw a box full of old toys, and there, between blocks and broken dolls, was Willie. What happened? Said Alexander, surprised. Willie told him a sad story. It had been Annie's birthday. There had been a party, and everyone had brought a gift. The next day, Willie sighed, many of the old toys were dumped in this box. We will all be thrown away. Alexander was almost in tears. Poor, poor Willie, he thought. But then suddenly something caught his eye. Could it really be? Yes, it was. It was a little purple pebble. Can you guys see it? All excited, he ran to the garden, the precious pebble tight in his arms. There was a full moon. Out of breath, Alexander stopped near the blackberry bush. Lizard, lizard in the bush, he called quickly. The leaves rustled, and there stood the lizard. The moon is round, the pebble found, said the lizard. Who or what do you wish to be? I want to be... Alexander stopped. Then suddenly he said, Lizard, lizard, could you change Willie into a mouse like me? The lizard blinked. There was a blinding light, and then all was quiet. The purple pebble was gone. Alexander ran back to the house as fast as he could. Okay, let's stop and check for understanding. Let's make sure we know what's going on. So, Alexander searched and searched for that pebble, and he couldn't find it, but then he found Willie, and Willie had been thrown away. So I think at first Alexander wanted to be changed into a wind-up mouse, right? And then he found out that Willie was going to be thrown away. So now he found the purple pebble, and he went to the lizard, and he's asking the lizard to change Willie into a real mouse. The box was there, but alas, it was empty. Too late, he thought, and with a heavy heart, he went to his hole in the baseboard. Something squeaked. Cautiously, Alexander moved closer to the hole. There was a mouse inside. Who are you? Said Alexander, a little frightened. My name is Willie, said the mouse. Willie! Cried Alexander. The lizard did it! He hugged Willie, and then they ran to the garden path. And there they danced until dawn.